Take the Zoom. We're on page 20. Completing. Oh, let's change that. Payment. Okay, completing the square. What are the difference between yesterday and today's lesson is we have an a value. This time there's something in front. Okay, today's lesson a is not equal to 1. And of course it's not equal to 0 either, because what would happen if our a was 0? Okay, our x squared would become 0. 0 times x squared is 0. So what type of equation would it make? If you had y equals x squared plus bx plus c, and you made your a value 0, what? No? Anyone take a guess? Linear. It's going to form a line. Either it could be a vertical line, or it could be y equals mx plus b. Okay? So then it would not be a quadratic. So our a value has to be anything but 1. Or 0, sorry. Anything but 0. Okay, so what happens if it's not equal to 1? Well, our first step is we want to separate the terms with the x, but we also want to factor out the a value. So we're going to actually factor out the a value. Remove the coefficient of the x squared, or remove the a value from the first two. We're going to factor. So if our example is y equals 2x squared minus 16x plus 7, I'm going to factor 2 out of those first two terms. So to factor 2 out, to figure out what's remaining, we divide each by 2. Remember factoring? Sort of. So we're left with x squared minus 8x. And now, okay, repeat from yesterday. Figure out what would make it a perfect square. Negative 8 divided by 2 squared is plus 16. You can't just add 16, so we are going to subtract 16. Here's the second step that's different. I can't just put negative 16 outside the brackets. What do I have to do to pull it out? Times it by the a value. So to bring the negative 16 out, I have to times it by whatever is in front of the brackets. 2 times negative 16 gives me negative 32. So that's our 2 extra steps. We have to factor the a value out, and then to bring the number out that we don't need to make a perfect square, you multiply it by its a value. This will keep equality, and then everything else is the same. So in this equation, what would be the vertex? Looking at the final answer, 4, negative 25. The parabola opens. The a value is positive, so it's opening up, meaning it's going to have a minimum value of negative 25 and an axis of symmetry of x equals 4. Okay, so let's try that extra step. What are we going to factor out in our first step from the first two terms? Let's factor 2. Do you want me to zoom? I'll zoom again. Zoom 200. That's better. Okay. So factoring 2 out, we're going to factor 2 out, and we're left with what? X squared plus 6x. You can leave some space now, or we can, all right, I'll do it all in every step one at a time right now. Okay. Next step, we want to make it a perfect square, right? Well, on a perfect square trinomial, so what do we do from here? Divide 6 by 2 and square it. 3 squared is 9. So we're going to add 9, but we can't just add 9, so we will subtract 9. Next step, we just want the trinomial, the perfect square trinomial. So we have to remove the negative 9. So how do I bring it out? Times it by 2. Yeah, you have to multiply it by 2. to bring it out. 2 times negative 9 gives you negative 18 plus 5. And last, let's rewrite our perfect square trinomial as a product of 2 binomials. So what would that become? X plus 3, the middle term divided by 2, so 3 all squared, minus what? 13. So what's the vertex? Negative 3 and negative 13. Beautiful. Be very careful of negatives. Gotta watch your sign. So what are we factoring out of the first 2 terms? Positive 3 or negative 3? Negative 3. So if I factor out negative 3 from the first 2 terms, what are we left with? X squared, is it going to be plus 5x or minus 5x? You're going to divide by negative 3, so minus 5x. Good. Oh, yay, we're going to end up with a fraction. Lucky us. Okay, how do we find out the last term to make it a perfect square? Same thing as yesterday. Negative 5 divide by 2 and squared. What does that equal? 25 over 4. So plus 25 over 4 minus 25 over 4. We always pull out the minus, right? Because in a perfect square, the last term has to be positive for it to be a perfect square. Okay. So what is negative 3 times negative 25 over 4? Negative or positive first off? Positive. 2 negatives can give you a positive. 75 over 4. Right? That's like 3 over 1. When we multiply fractions, you multiply the numerators with numerators, denominators with denominators. Okay, so 75 over 4 plus 4 over 4. It's like adding 16 over 4, which is 91 over 4. What's left in the brackets? X plus or minus? Take the sign in the middle and then divide the middle by 2. 5 over 2. And they want to know the vertex, so we'll tell them the vertex. What's the x value? 5 over 2, comma, 91 over 4. How's that? Okay, let's look at an example like this, example 3, because a lot of you were like, good, and then you see something where you don't have a c value, and you're like, what do? I forget everything. You'll be okay. It's the same thing, okay? So, factor out what? 2 from everything that has an x. Oops, let's use g of x. And we're left with x squared plus 10x. Do we have anything outside the bracket? No, there's no constant. Not right now, at least. All right, figure out the c value to make this a perfect square. Same as yesterday. Take 10, divide by 2, and square it. What is that? 25 plus 25 minus 25. So we only want the 3 terms that make this a perfect square trinomial. So who are you going to pull out? Negative 25. Don't forget to multiply by the a value. What does that give us? Negative 50. So final answer, 2 times x plus 5 squared minus 50. That's all they wanted. We could state the vertex for fun. Yeah, we didn't have to. All they wanted was this. This is vertex form. That's our answer. Okay. So, could you try example 4 by yourself? Try completing the square, and then if you feel brave, start sketching it. Otherwise, you can wait and we can sketch together. So I'm going to go through this one quickly. We should have factored out 3 from the first 2 terms. We divide negative 2 by 2 and square it. Negative 1 squared is 1, so plus 1 minus 1. Bringing the minus 1 outside the brackets, 3 times negative 1 gives you negative 3. Plus 5. So factored form, we get x minus 1 squared plus 2. So our vertex will be at 1, 2. So 1 and 2 is right there. That means that's also my axis of symmetry. In standard form, our C value is our y-intercept. So we have a y-intercept of 5. So that's symmetrical. We can also guess our graph by knowing the stretch. The stretch is positive 3. So in a normal x squared graph, 1 squared gives you 1. And then we times that by 3, which gives us our point up here. 2 squared is 4, which times that by 3 is 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Up from the vertex, and then on the other side, 12 up from the vertex. Oh, that doesn't look right. Okay, and so that will give us a really nice sketch of our graph. As long as you can draw curved lines well. And there we go. Okay. And there it is. The next one, have you already started it? A lot of you? Yeah? Okay, well, let's go through it. Completing the square, factor the negative 2 out. We're left with x squared, and then what? You factor negative 2 out. It's like dividing each of these by 2. Plus 4x. Okay. 4 divided by 2 and squared is 2 squared. So we're adding 4 and subtracting 4. We want to bring the minus 4 out. So we have to multiply negative 4 times the a value of negative 2, and that gives us plus 8. Yes, plus 8. Let's have our final answer as negative 2 times x plus 2 squared, the middle term, divide by 2, and take the sign, plus 9. Does this graph open up or down? Downwards. What's the vertex? Negative 2 and positive 9. Remember, opposite sign for the x, meaning we have a max or a min. Our max is 9. And at what value of x does the max occur? At x equals negative 2. Okay. Can you check your answer for completing the square? Yes. Grab your calculators. Let's check your answer for this one, just to practice. Okay, well, that's okay. I pressed recharge it last night. Why it's not working? Okay, so how would you check them? Your answer, let's just talk about it, I guess. Graph, what equation? The one you're given. So y equals negative 2x squared minus 8x plus 1. And then y2 you're going to graph as your answer that you stated. Y equals negative 2 times x plus 2 squared plus 9. They should be the same line. So can you please all do that and double check that they're the same line? Just for the sake of practicing. On the next page of the notes, you're already there. All of this stuff is review. We've already talked about how to solve for your A value. The only thing that I would like to mention is if you're congruent to a graph, what that's saying is that the shape is the same. Okay, so you have the same shape if you are congruent. It might be shifted or transformed up or down, or it could even be reflected, but the shape itself is the same. So what that means is that our A value could be positive or negative 3. We have to have more information. But our A value is going to be equal to, well, it could be 3 or it could be negative 3, because if it opens down, does it still have the same shape? Yes. Whether it opens or up, it's just reflected. Okay? So congruent means it's the same shape. So if this case, if it is congruent to 3x squared and opens down, what would our A value be? Negative 3. Okay, so that's the only thing new on this page. Everything else is all review. If we look at number 3 really quickly, it says congruent to y equals x squared, and range is y is less than or equal to 3. Negative 3, thank you. Does that open up or down? If the range is less than or equal to negative 3, it opens down. So what would our A value be in this question? Negative 6. Negative 6. Okay, so that's what congruent means. Oh, too bad this wasn't just like positive 3, because then less than 3. I less than 3 you? You don't get this? You guys and your emojis have ruined you. When you type less than 3, what does it look like? It's a heart. Aww. Okay. So, if you would like, the notes are on the website, so if you feel you need to look at them and go through this, you can go to the website yourself. I feel like for today's lesson, you're good for the homework. You should be good. Okay, there's also the other extra practice on the website you could find too, if you need it. So, the assignment for today is very front page of your notes, which is page 192. Numbers?
Ask every single class.
No.
Like that was the deal. What?
Okay, so there's your assignment. Let's get to work.
The assignment.